Hello folks, Halcylion here. So it took us half a year to reach the 20,000 denar mark, and that was rather slow, if I'm entirely honest. Let's see what we can achieve in the next 2 months. Welcome to the third episode of Trader Stories. Here we are outside of Lageta with 20k denars in the bank and 14 men in our army, 5 of which are wounded. They'll recover. So, what are my current goals for this episode? Long term, I want to make more money and eventually invest into profitable businesses, but on the short term, I need to hire more men for better security. Some of my looter prisoners want to join my army. Why not? I could use some arrow fodder in my ranks. And maybe we'll also take some jobs in the meantime. A local merchant needs his caravan escorted, and this sounds like a job for me, but first, I shall wander through the nearby villages and recruit more volunteers. At some point my clan level has increased, and this would allow me to field a larger army, recruit more companions, and purchase additional workshops. For now I'll only do that first thing. Not long after, I ran into the village of Remtoil, and one thing caught my attention here. One of the notables allowed me to hire one highborn archer, which can be trained into the legendary Battanian Fian, the deadliest marksman you can meet in Calradia. This notable would have let me hire more highborns if only we were better friends. This is definitely something I'll have to keep in mind. If Melidir of Remtoil ever has a job for me, I will immediately take it. Becoming his friend would have the benefit of allowing me to build an army of elite archers. But he has nothing for me right now, so I shall return to Lageta and take that escort job. But since I'm so close to Seonon, maybe it's a good idea to purchase some cheap materials to bring back here. On my way north, I wanted to hire more people from this village, but Ricardo here decided to raid it. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't intervene and save this village. Not only will I die along the peasants, but if I were to survive, I'd become a sworn enemy of the Western Empire, and that's something I cannot afford. I'm not getting involved. My trip would continue. Before reaching Seonon, I noticed a large congregation of looters, and you know how I am. I just can't leave them be. With some basic tactics, we wiped them out with no casualties and claimed their loot. Once we reached the town, I was amazed to find really cheap mounts, so of course I bought them all. And as I was browsing through the other trade goods, I paid attention for something rumored to bring a profit back in Lageta. Iron among them. But I wasn't going to buy the iron right now because of this little trick I know. See, when you buy in a town, the price increases the more you purchase. But the village producing the iron would bulk sell me its inventory for a static price, so I went there, bought 36 units of ore for 19 denars apiece, and then we returned to the town, buying out the rest of the iron for cheap. And with a full caravan, I would return to Lageta and make a huge sale. I was led to believe that grain would sell well over here, but that's not the case. Oh well, I didn't pay a lot for it, I'll just use it to feed my army until I find a buyer. The profit I made wasn't great, but somehow I gained a lot of trading experience to the point of gaining an extra level. Because I plan to do a bit of smithing in the future, I will focus on this skill just a little. But uh-oh, time is passing. Now it's only been half a year since our adventure began, but the clock is ticking. You may not know it, but if you want to have children, it's best to get married before the age of 35, especially if you're a lady. So by 1087, I would have to find a wife. There's no rush, we still got about 3 years to go, but that's something to keep in the back of our minds. Anyway, in Lageta, I had a chat with a merchant who needed his caravan escorted, and I agreed to help. All I would have to do is follow the convoy and scare away any bandits with a mind for raiding. But that's not all I'll be doing, because that would be a huge waste of time. Oh, no. I would also pass through every town and village in my way and execute trades, of course. Some of these villages paid a huge amount for my pack animals, and so did the town of Pencannock. I always buy mules if their price is below 100, because some towns like Pencannock pay you nearly 300 per head. And of course, in here I bought the local specialty, and the caravan passed through Lageta yet again, where I turned a huge profit. I was now sitting at 29,000 and I was not done yet. All this time spent in the markets taught me some more trading tricks which would make it easier for me to make money. Anyway, I briefly lost sight of the caravan, so I got worried for a second, because that could mean big trouble, but I found it almost immediately after, so everything would be alright. I shall continue my routine of following it around and trading with whichever settlements were in my way. In some of these villages I sold some hogs for double the price, and I found some cheap horses and mules for sale, as well as ovine products. So all was going pretty well. Until I saw this band of looters about to attack my employers. As soon as I closed in, they got terrified and tried to escape. Not on my watch. The fight went well. All I've lost in this fight was a looter and, well, he served his purpose. But the highlight of this fight was the fact that I could finally train one of my archers to become a fabled Paladin Guard. And in case you didn't figure out my game plan, that troop is going to form the core of my army. Ideally, my archer division would be formed by Battanian Fians, but the Highborns aren't exactly easy to hire. Whereas every commoner in the Empire can be trained into a deadly Paladin Guard. Good armor, good shooting skills, and decent sword fighting ability. Perfect for hunting bandits and bringing some justice to this lawless land. In the 11th day of winter, we've finally reached the town of Mizea and I got paid 3,600 for my services. With the contract complete, I now had two goals: sell my stuff and return to Battania to make some investments. But that is easier said than done, especially when you find so much cheap stuff for sale. In my attempts to liquidate my inventory, I reached Argoron. Did they buy anything? Hell no. But they had plenty of cheap fish for sale, so could I resist the temptation? The sweet siren call of profit? Absolutely not. I loaded as much as I could onto my convoy and planned to sell it back to Mizea. But I reconsidered. The price would considerably go down if I sold directly to the town, so I instead visited each of its bound villages and made 1,000 denars in each of them. And I actually sold the rest of the fish for another 6 grand. Now I only have 30,000 coins, which isn't a significant improvement over what I had before escorting the caravan, but keep in mind that my convoy is loaded with trade goods waiting to be sold. From here, my plan was to head north and traverse Sturgia to reach Battania. If I could make some trades along the way, that would be amazing. But in my journey I passed near the town of Umbrella, which was being sieged by the Mongols. So I waited patiently, hoping to make a sale. And to prevent this from being a huge waste of time, I thought it would be a good idea to talk to lords wandering by, showering them in gifts and getting those sweet levels in charm. By the time the siege was lifted, I made significant progress in this skill. In town, the fish would sell for a whopping 24 denars apiece, but I didn't have too much on me. I sold it all to Mizea. So I purchased some cheap fabrics and continued my way north. In Tial I was hoping to sell some of my stuff, but nothing would bring me profit, so I did the logical thing and spent 10,000 denars on whatever cheap goods were being sold there. Would I liquidate any of it? Not for a long time. Speaking of time, it's been a month since I left Lageta and I'm still nowhere close to accomplishing any of my goals. I eventually reached Sibir, where I exchanged some cheap fish for some cheaper goods, eventually leveling up once more. In my trail west, I maintained the habit of buying low and selling high, mostly doing the first of these two things, until I reached Omor and finally managed to sell a large chunk of my inventory for nearly 13,000 denars. But of course, I had to spend some of that money on cheap goods which are going to bring a huge profit back in Battania, most notably furs and beer, which was extremely cheap all over Sturgia, confirming yet again the stereotype that Slavs love their alcohol. My journey took a little bit longer than normal because I stopped through every village I could to either buy cheap furs or sell expensive fish. But I eventually reached the prosperous city of Seonon, where I purchased some cheap horses, before starting to offload all the goods I brought from my little adventure to the east. I didn't rake in quite as much cash as I was expecting, and I actually spent whatever I got on iron and wood. And as such, I would vent my frustration on this band of raiders. The fight would not be easy, but with some basic tactics in place, we could minimize casualties on our side. So I put my archers in one place, my infantry to the front and the left, and my job was to circle the bastards on horseback and harass them with arrows. I could have landed more shots if I stood still on my mount, but mobility, not accuracy, was what I focused on. These hillmen throw their javelins with deadly accuracy, and I'd rather make them waste their ammo than try to kill them myself. After all, that's the archer's job. The fight went about as well as I expected. We only lost 2 men. May they rest in peace. Actually, they're Battanian, so may they fight eternally in Valhalla or whatever mythical place they believe in. After this fight, I went towards Maronath, selling some stuff to the local villages. But when I reached the town, that's when all my adventure in the east would pay off. Offloading all the goods I've brought gave me 27,000 denars, some of which were spent on wood, rumored to sell well in a nearby town. But since I had around 40,000 denars, I thought about using them to manipulate the local markets by buying some of the workshops in town and turning them into breweries. I don't know if this was a good idea, it's not something I planned. Just a spontaneous concept that popped into my mind and I decided to act on it. Whether it will pay any dividends in the future remains to be seen. The basic concept is that I would eliminate the competition, and because I was planning to invest into a smithy in Seonon, I decided to turn the Maronath Forge into a brewery, and I've done the same with a local carpentry shop to eliminate the town's need of wood and free up the production for my own workshops. Again, We'll see if this works. If it's a complete waste of money, I'd only sacrifice about 4,000 dinars, which is an acceptable loss. With this done, my next goal was selling all my stuff, so I rode to Penkanok and earned another 14,000 dinars, also buying whatever cheap crap I could find. That cheap crap would sell well in Dunglanis, just like last time, taking me close to 30k. With all these goals achieved, I wanted to do just a couple more things. First of all, I needed to sell some of my stuff to get more money, and secondly, we'll talk about it when we get there. Some of these villages would pay insane prices for the mules, 250 per beast, which is great for my coin purse. But my first objective took me all the way to Vlandia, where I eventually liquidated all my investments and got back to nearly 40k. After which I went to fulfill my last objective for this session, selling the workshops whose production I've changed, so I can actually invest into proper workshops whose purpose was to make me money, a smithy in Seonon, which no longer had any competition, and a pottery shop in Penkanok. Perhaps this second investment wouldn't be great, but if it fails me, I will liquidate it and buy another one, so it's all good. With my objectives now complete, it was time to celebrate by spilling the bloods of some lawless animals. Their living bodies are good training dummies, and their corpses make for great fertilizer. Having achieved everything I set out to do for the time being, it was time to return to Marunath, sell my loot and call it a day. What day it is? April May 17th. It's been almost 2 months since the start of the episode, and in 4 days, it will be the 1-year anniversary since our trading journey began. So it took us nearly a year to grow the convoy to a decent size, invest into 2 workshops, and still have 40,000 dinars in the bank. With these milestones achieved, I believe now would be a good time to bring this episode to an end. I hope you found it enjoyable. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.